It is only fitting and appropriate that we hold this rededication ceremony during the month of May when all peace officers across the nation, across the state, and within the county honor the fallen officers for their sacrifice. When the new police lobby was built, the committee members in the department want to ensure there was a prominent place to honor our fallen. This would be a place where every citizen and employee who entered the police department would be able to see the faces and read the stories of how these employees sacrificed their lives. Let us now take a look at this great monument. And these are going to be the actual street signs that are going to be placed up at each location. So as we mentioned before, it was very important to capture the time period that they served in. So we went and found the exact badges that they were wearing at the time and replicated those on each of those signs. You'll notice that the badges, at least for Huntington Beach, have changed over the years, and also some slight nuances changed with the Orange County Sheriff badge as well. So as public servants, we want to make sure that as the community is walking or riding their bicycles or driving by each of these locations, they remember what happened at those times. And you'll see some common threads and commonalities between each of these incidents. And those are things that we still face today as citizens, as visitors, and as officers in the city of Huntington Beach.
In the forming of this committee, it was an honorable event for all committee members. An opportunity to go back, the opportunity to have an officer, Officer Huss, who I call the department historian. He's always had his grip on researching data of the history of this department.
Now we came to the summer of 2017, and former Los Angeles County Sheriff's Deputy Sheriff Councilman Billy O'Connell agreed to propose it and take it forward in a city council action. And it came to fruition in the fall of 2018 when we were able to honor and recognize the fallen officers who've paid the ultimate sacrifice in Huntington Beach on their anniversary dates.
Yeah, as a new officer, when I got started at this police department, I'd walk by and I'd see the signs, the memorial at the front desk. You know, the signs were faded, there'd be a slight story, but you never really got to know the person. You never got to know their history, how long they worked here, where they lived, how they grew up. And during this process, we were actually be able to learn that through all three fallen officers. And that really, really touched a nerve with me because I'm not going to be here forever, but I know a lot of the people that we have hired will be. And we certainly hope that this never, ever has to happen again in the future. But we also want to keep these people's names alive and this legacy alive.
And what a great opportunity it was for all of us to join hands and put forth our effort to honor our fallen in the city of Huntington Beach.
Yeah, we noticed on the very first sign dedication, which was Leroy Darst, and we found a house that we were actually going to do the ceremony in front of. And we learned that on the date of Leroy Darst's death, that house was still standing. So we actually held it overlooking the same exact roadway that he lost his life on.
A couple of weeks ago, we had discussion with a homeowner at this home here. And this home was built in 1920. And putting it perspective on this entire incident and his loss of life, the home was probably 8 years old. It may have been the only structure in the area at the time of the collision led to his death. The day that we dedicated Leroy Darst was ironic because the weather conditions that day no doubt paralleled the weather on the day of his loss based on the information we gathered.
All right, good morning everybody. Thank you very much for coming out on this beautiful rainy Saturday. It is very fitting though, since it was raining in the first rain of the season when this incident happened 90 years ago. So again, those little nuances really tied it back, and we actually were able to work that in to our talk as we went back in history about it. So the people that had not been there but were present for the ceremony actually got to see and somewhat visualize what would have taken place during that tragic night. Yeah, so Les Prince, on his dedication, we had a power failure. And what we learned through our research is that on the night that he lost his life, there was a power failure at the intersection of Beach and Adams. And he was there to help direct traffic around so that our citizens can get through that blind intersection and work their way home. And in that process, he lost his life due to a drunk driver.
When I got to the station a couple of hours ago, the power was out. It had rained last night. It was very eerily similar to the night 44 years ago. This morning was.
It was just nice to know that the timing was probably right for the Prince survivors to be back embraced within the department, and some of us being able to do the signs to commemorate and memorialize the sacrifice that those officers made is truly nice. The Prince surviving spouse had said, and even his sister had said, they had never passed through that intersection since the incident. So that's some 44 years that took place. And we brought them back there for the dedication ceremony of the sign. It was nice that Les' brother Robert was able to share his words of his brother that he remembered.
Les was hit by a pickup truck on a dark Saturday evening during a power blackout. Our family and friends waited at the hospital for 15 days and nights through Thanksgiving. During that time, Les seemed to be making great improvements. He had been running several miles each week and was in fantastic shape. We were optimistic and started discussing long-term care. Then on Sunday, December 1st, his brain swelled and he died. That day happened to be Mom's birthday. Afterwards, she celebrated it on December 2nd. The driver, who had multiple DUI arrests, was convicted of negligent vehicular manslaughter and was sentenced to 1 year in jail. We were told that that sentence wouldn't have been so harsh if Les hadn't been a police officer. Soon, the public's view of drunk drivers started to change, and Mothers Against Drunk Drivers was founded 6 years later.
That was the only officer that we had that we knew had surviving family members. We had previously kept in contact with Leroy Darst's sister, but she passed away several years ago. So in this case, being able to speak with Les Prince's surviving spouse, his brother, his sister, his young son, his granddaughter. He never knew his granddaughter or his young son. He passed away when he was about 6 months old. So to hear them speak about him as if he was still here, to hear them talk about the potential that he had, and in their minds there was no doubt he would have been a chief of police here, or very successful, and he would have continued on with those leadership characteristics and that service that he had always had in his mind and body to continue to serve the citizens.
A lot of the issues that we dealt with as a committee, they were new to us. We've not been down this path before. So we did have to reach out to other agencies that have experienced, having signs posted in their community, us more locally on a local platform with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, losing one of their sheriffs in our community.
This one's important to us as well because it's a partnership with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Stanley was patrolling Sunset Beach, which has since become part of Huntington Beach, and then he also lost his life in Huntington Beach. And we have such a tremendous partnership with the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
And I think it's only fitting as an example to all the communities in Orange County that we take what is happening in Huntington Beach and try to emulate that throughout the rest of the county so that we always make our promise or keep our promise that we will never forget.
Father, we are gathered here today to remember and to honor Officer Leroy Darst. It is because of men and women of courage and of commitment, such as Officer Darst, who make this the town, the community that we live in. We thank you for the service rendered by Officer Prince. And Father, his death reminds us of the dangers that law enforcement personnel face every day. The short words of his song say that all gave some and some gave all. And may this place today be a reminder of one who gave his all. Thank you for the courage and the commitment of our men and women who serve this community.
The cornerstone of the wall is the In the Line of Duty bronze replica of the California Peace Officer Memorial located in Sacramento. This bronze replica was presented to now retired Hbpd senior officer and former City of Huntington Beach Mayor Gil Corper. He was one of the original 9 founding members of the California Peace Officers Commission, who, beginning in 1985, began planning and raising funds for a statewide memorial. On May 13, 1988, hundreds of officers and family members from around the country attended the dedication ceremony at the newly erected monument. The replica you see before you is a limited edition and was presented to Gil Corper for his instrumental efforts in helping to construct the California Peace Officer Memorial in Sacramento. If you look closely, you'll see 3 figures looking outward. Each figure represents an evolution of California law enforcement and depicts a county sheriff from the 1880s, a state traffic officer from the 1930s, and a city patrolman from the 1980s. The bronze replica was left in the hands of the Huntington Beach Police Department to display proudly. It acts as a constant reminder of the work Gil and the HBPOA have done and will continue to do as part of the California Peace Officer Memorial Foundation. Former Sergeant Michael Matwire and current officers Bill Brownlee and Wade Wilson currently hold leadership positions in the foundation. The header is made of brushed metal with dimensional letters. The brushed metal represents the resolve that we have honoring our fallen, while the dimensional letters cast shadow on the metal representing these events in our hearts. The left pillar has the American flag with a thin blue line running through it. The blue represents the officers and the courage they find deep inside when faced with insurmountable odds. The black background was designed as a constant reminder of our fallen brother and sisters, officers in this profession. Each officer's plaque is suspended from steel cables so that our memory will never tarnish while floating above the background wall. The plaque bases are made of clear acrylic with flamed blue edging. The clear acrylic represents the purity in their actions, and the blue edging represents their courage. The plaque is brushed metal representing their resolve. A photo of Officer Leroy Darst, Officer Leslie Prince, and Police Service Dog Kim are adorned to these plaques with the text in solemn black tone. Finally, small lights shine down on each photograph and story, always keeping them in sight and never forgotten. The light helps to cast a shadow on the backdrop, which reminds us they will never be forgotten, and they will always be present in our hearts and minds. And those of us who are here now and forever in the future, who to continue to serve the Huntington Beach community, are reliant upon to carry out what these fallen heroes were unable to finish.
And then most of all, as I close, I'd like to thank the men and women of our department in all facets who do this job every single day, whether it's serving residents up here, whether it's answering the phones and out on the street. Again, the difficulty of that job increases daily, and we're always amazed at the level of service they're able to provide. So again, thank you all for coming today. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, today's ceremony I really focused on 2 words, service and sacrifice, and those things are synonymous with public safety and especially the law enforcement profession. So that really brings it in and then kind of ties it in with the history and maintaining that history, carrying it forward, and remembering those that did serve and did sacrifice their lives so that all of us could continue on.
I am hopeful that with the names that we've dedicated on our wall here today at our front lobby, I am hoping that we don't have to add anybody else in the future.